Hello everyone. My name is Art Russell. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to share some information that I hope will help you discern clearly between who you think you are and that which you actually are. I'm suggesting that there's a big difference between the apparent two. The false self seems very real, but true self is reality. The false self derives its sense of happiness from favorable circumstances, but the nature of true self is happiness or imperturbability. So let's begin. To help us investigate this subject more deeply, I'd like you to imagine or contemplate a dream state dream. When your mind falls asleep and you merge with a dream, you assume the role of a character within that dream. Space, time, perhaps other persons, and events arise within the dream. And everything seems as real can be. There may even be the long passage of time, perhaps weeks or months. But when you merge once again with waking state reality, you realize that everything within that dream, your character, time, space, other persons, and events, were all rendered by the perspective of the finite mind. They were all made of consciousness. And what I'm suggesting is that this reality is a shared dream that's occurring within infinite living mind or universal consciousness. Now, I've made a couple of illustrations that I hope will help us discern more clearly between the two. The first is the false self, which I'm suggesting is conceptual only. It apparently exists on the horizontal line between birth and death. It believes it has a beginning and believes that death is its end. And it's comprised of descriptions, definitions, memories. And it seems to get its existence from repetitive sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. But the main point about this I'm making is that the false self carries everything about itself, its conceptual self, along a horizontal timeline. And it believes that it is the same today as it was yesterday. Now, this in itself is easy to disprove because the conceptual self is made up of conceptions of about its body, which is changing from moment to moment. Cells are dying off and being replaced by the millions. And if it's the mind that we think is stable, well, thoughts, images, sensations, perceptions are changing from moment to moment. What I'm suggesting is that our true self it can't really be represented but the vertical axis of being or I am. And that it is ever fresh, going out in concentric rings rather than linear. That, as is the case of characters within the nighttime dream or the dream state dream, there was no lasting in time thing to them. They were only made of mind. So it may be easier to think of this as a pulse of in and out of apparent existence. The false self carries all the baggage of its apparent history and concerns about the future. Now, this understanding of discerning between the two is easier to break apart or show as false when we understand the nature of time. All there is now. And if you investigate this on yourself or by yourself, you'll see that when you think of the past, you do that now. When you imagine a future, you do that now. Now is all there is. If you check your experience, you'll see that even though you've planned for future events, in other words, imagine them, you only live them now. Why? Because now is all there is. True self, this dimension of being, which is ever fresh, the I am, is the substratum of our being. You can recognize it by stillness, by presence, just the sense of being without being a somebody. To discover this or recognize it, to realize it again, I highly advise a practice of meditation, even 5 or 10 minutes a day, in which you can soon experience directly that there is a witnessing going on of thoughts and feelings, sensations and images, perceptions, and that something that is noticing, that is aware, is not a thing. Now, I'd like to share some Bible verses, just 3 of them, that point to the nature of our true self as consciousness, or something that is not able to be pointed to. Here's the first. Excuse me. The first comes from Acts chapter 17, verse 28. For in him we live and move and have our being. And what I'm suggesting is that him is consciousness, or God. In scientific terms, we might call this the unified field. The second verse comes from Luke chapter 17, verses 20 and 21. Once, on being asked by the Pharisees when the kingdom of God would come, Jesus replied, "The coming of the kingdom of God is not something that can be observed, nor will people say, 'Here it is,' or 'There it is,' because the kingdom of God is in your midst." Consciousness. To have any experience, consciousness or awareness must be. And I'm suggesting that it is omnipresent, present everywhere. And this third verse is from Psalm chapter 34, verse 3. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. Now, this is connected to the title of this video, and I was going to name it Magnify the Lord, but I know that for a lot of beings, using terms like Lord or God can have a negative connotation. But awareness, and I'm suggesting that's our true nature, is what I'm suggesting this says to magnify. Magnify awareness, which is prior to the mind, which says, oh yes, I'm I'm this type of character, I've got all that baggage, I'm concerned about the future. That's the conceptual self. Our true nature of being or presence, prior to the busyness of the mind, is peaceful. It's isness itself. And I would highly suggest that we're wise to magnify the Lord, awareness. If you've enjoyed this video, excuse me, or found it helpful or useful, I invite you to share, subscribe, and like. More information is available through my free articles at thinktwice.me, and also through my book entitled This Taste of Flesh and Bones, available from Amazon. Thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Bye for now.